Spoilers for Elbath, but is Emu out here throwing cheeks? Are they butt naked right now? Because I got a comment from loyal subscriber and commenter S3PA472 because they were saying how it's kind of interesting that Loki loses his blindfold when he becomes a Nidhogg. And that's true, and I've been thinking about this for a while actually, and it's very odd that out of all the Zoans, the mythical Zoans specifically have the most interesting effects on clothing for some reason. Because, okay, taking it back to basics, let's look at Luffy. Luffy's clothes are dyed white, or I guess you should say bleach white, when he becomes Nika, when he awakens his devil fruit, right? And his sash becomes purple, most likely a reference back to the human fruit mythical model Nika being purple, right? But he's not alone in this whole clothes changing color thing, because Sengoku, another mythical human fruit user, has his clothes changed to gold when he uses his fruit. And I have often thought that he was a failed awakened mythical Zoan because he doesn't have the Hagoromo, but it's very likely, seeing as how he too, like Luffy, is a human that ate a human fruit. The only time he's able to transform is when he awakens. So when he does so, his clothes become gold, and I think that's very odd. Then when we talk about animals who have eaten human fruits that are mythical, we have Onimaru. Onimaru is a butt-naked fox, right? But when he uses his human fruit mythical model on Yudo, he gains clothing out of nowhere. And this is why I think Emu could be coming to the battlefield but naked technically, except for maybe a cloak and a crown, because it's very weird that Emu, now fully transformed, has a whole ensemble, something that does not seem like it would fit under that cloak. So the only piece of clothing that might actually be real, technically, is the cloak that they're wearing that bears the mark of the Depths Covenant, because it doesn't really make sense otherwise. So the staff, the pants, the shoes, etc., all of that could be from the devil fruit itself, which means under the cloak, there are no clothes. They're just out here naked, which is wild. But that's not even the weird part, because it affects most of the characters who have mythical Zoids in the same way. When you look at Loki, for example, Loki is butt naked as a full dragon. Few articles of clothing stick around. You have his nose guard, you have the bandage on his horn, you have the bracelets, and you have his cloak, apparently, or it looks like the cloak is there. I'm not sure, because it's very hard to see what actually is a part of his body and what is not as a dragon. However, moving on, Kaido was the same way. His cloak was around, his bracelets were around, but otherwise he was butt naked as a dragon. Yamato's the same way. She's butt naked as a full wolf. Her Neo Daisuke stays, which is the big white and purple rope that she wears around her waist, the same white and purple rope that Odin wore, and her earrings stay, but otherwise she's just naked as a wolf. Also, the club is gone. Same with Kaido, the club just disappears. I don't know, bro, that's weird. But yeah, that's very, very interesting. Same thing, honestly, with Ragnir, because as a hammer, right, Ragnir has a bandaged handle, but as a squirrel, there is no sight of that bandaged handle. So in becoming a full mythical squirrel, apparently, the bandage that's on the hammer's handle just disappears, which I find super funny. But taking it back to the first mythical Zoan, Marco, yes, he too loses all of his clothes when he becomes a full phoenix. The only thing that stays consistent is his chest tattoo, which makes sense because the tattoo is a part of his body, and in the post-time skip, of course, he still wears his glasses no matter what form he's in. But even when you're talking about weird guys like Orochi, when he's fully transformed, all he's wearing is his kimono, and everything else seems to have disappeared. You don't get too many good shots of him, but from the shot in which he's fighting the 9 scabbards, you can kind of see what's going on, and that seems to be it. He's wearing his cloak, and that's about it for what I can tell. Most of the clothing otherwise has disappeared. So I find that very, very interesting that it's the same across the board with all mythical Zoans, which is very different when you're talking about ancient and normal Zoans, because with them, it seems to be a bit of art bias as to what disappears and what doesn't. For example, you take it back to somebody like Dalton. Dalton loses his shoes when he goes into his hybrid state or his full beast state. But then you've got guys like Morgans who are transformed all the time and wear a full ensemble, including shoes. But then you come to the odd man out, whom is super weird regarding this conversation, Baron Tamago of the Big Mom Pirates, because Baron Tamago's outfit and body change through each transformation, and then they all reset. So I'm not sure what of Baron Tamago's is actually real, because it doesn't necessarily make sense that his entire body and ensemble change with each transformation he goes under, which is why I think he's in a different category of Zoan from the rest of the characters that we've talked about so far. It's very odd, and it really makes you think, well, is the only real thing about Baron Tamago now after eating the egg fruit is his yolk state? Are all other transformations just manifestations now of the fruit? Has his real body been compromised? It's a lot to think about, and it's very, very strange. But with that being said, yes, Imu could just be out here fighting butt naked. The presumed penultimate antagonist of the series could just be naked. But with that being said, if you're liking the video so far, hit the like button, and if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button followed by that bell so you never miss a video. In addition, I would appreciate if you would hit the hype button because it helps somehow. But with that being said too, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.